So, my brain's a little fluttered just because of dealing with trying to get the streaming working. But what we're going to be doing on this episode is actually deploying two devices. We're going to do Android and iOS on this episode, kind of combined. We're going to try and we're going to show how to switch between projects, project settings, and build for these platforms. I'm going to start with Android because, quite frankly, I think it's an easier setup than iOS is. They're both going to be pretty easy, at least with the default settings, which we're going to be using. But yeah, so I'm plugging in my Android device right now. We already set it to dev mode on the previous episode. And actually, I'm going to show you something that just happened on the screen here. So when I unlocked it this time, it said allow USB debugging, and it gave an RSA key, which represents this computer. This is just so that you don't accidentally plug this into someone else's PC and have them start adding malware onto your device or something. So just hit OK on this, and if that comes up, and you should be set. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see, first of all, I want to see if the Unity remote software actually works on this. So I'm actually going to get that downloaded real quick because we didn't get this working on Android before. And I just realized I need to actually download something, so hopefully Play Store will allow me to download without credit card information in there right now. Am I still on a face? I'm still on a face. Glad I checked. But what I'm going to be doing is on the device, just for a moment, I just want to get Unity Remote downloading. Unity Remote. We showed this on an episode, so I'm not showing it right now. Install, go. So while that's installing, let's get Unity set up. So Unity, and we're going to go to Make a Game Now. And we're going to go into Unity, what is it called? Preferences, and we're going to point it to our Android SDK. So on the last episode, I left it on a bar. There was nothing after that bar. It just was. I just closed the Android SDK manager, and so hopefully we should be set up. So if I click Browse here, it brings up this window. I'm going to choose Android, Mac OS, SDK, choose, and it worked that time. It didn't just immediately drop us out. So that means that that it thinks that's an SDK, and hopefully we'll be able to build with it. Now, before we get to the building, I want to see if the Unity Remote thing works. So I've launched Unity Remote on the device. I'm going to put it on main plus cam so we can see both. So I just launched the Unity 4 Remote, and we're going to set the settings on here, project settings, editor. We're going to set it to any Android device. And now if we hit play, hopefully this will actually work now. I think my device fell asleep. Well, it's interesting. I see a black screen on the device now. That's different than what we were getting before. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's working. So it's just really delayed. Or wait, no, it's not delayed. So yeah, we got it working. Touch is working. Yay! So it just took a while for it to initialize, but otherwise it's there. Now, I had some people ask about the aspect ratio. The aspect ratio on this is based on your aspect ratio on the player. So if you force it to an aspect ratio 16 by 9 is what I'd actually like, but for some reason I don't have a good aspect ratio. We might have to set it around. But what you can also do is just sliding this around, you'll see things stretch out. It actually is whatever you render it as in this window just gets sent to the device. So that's what actually determines the aspect ratio, is the window that's rendering it. So Unity Remote's working. That's a good sign. So what we're going to do now is we're going to build for Android. So we need to change a couple of, probably just one thing to actually make that happen. So we're going to go into Edit, Project Settings, Player, and we're going to go into Publishing Settings. No, not Publishing Settings. We're going to go to Other Settings. And inside here is Bundle Identifier. So we're going to change this to com.makeagameNow com.makeagame.now. So typically you want com.yourcompanyname.whatever the product is. So we've got that going. I'm just going to go ahead and save scene, save project, and then we're going to go into build settings. And it's already switched to Android, but if it's not, just click switch platform and it'll re-import assets. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to hit build and run. And we're just going to hope that it works. And we're going to go to desktop, and I'm going to call the APK make a game now. This is the Android package version. So I think I'm still on both video and good, I am. So this starts building things immediately, and it tries to push it to the device too. If you do build and run, it will try to push it to the device and start running it on the device. So we'll see if that actually happens here. So it says pushing content to device, Nexus 7, sweet, it knows what it is, that's a good sign. I'm still here, we're still here, I'm just waiting for it to finish pushing content. If your device is locked or has locked itself, you should probably unlock it. I think that may have an effect. Allow Google to regularly check activity for security problems. I'm going to decline that. There we go. Here it comes. Unity. It's running. This is legit. We can unplug the cord now. And this is actually an app on the device. And so this is what it looks like running on the device right now. So as you can see, there's a rendering difference here. We don't have the cool fog stuff coming in, although it does seem to be affecting the pillars. It's not affecting the ground, or at least not in the same way. So we're going to have to look into that. That's going to have to go on our list of things to fix. I actually cheated and did get this running on a couple things this weekend, and I had the problem on both iOS and Android, so it's something we do have to fix or change. Phil actually liked the look better this way just because of the high-resolution displays on these things and on the iPhone. And so we may discuss doing it as a stylistic thing, but I'd still want the style to be consistent between all of our products if we can. So, I'm going to... Okay, how do I quit this thing? So, we're done. We've got it on there. And so if we actually look in there, it actually installs it as an app as well. It doesn't put it on your home screen, but if we go to Make a Game Now, this is our game. How do I move this thing? Come on. How do I add this to the... I thought you just clicked and held it. There we go. So I'm just bringing it over there so we can see it. We don't have an icon for it or anything, so it just has this standard default Unity icon thing. And if you run it, it runs it. It's actually on the device. We're not running anything remotely. So, cool. So, that's Android. We've got Android running. So, let's see, doing the same thing in iOS. So, I'm going to unplug my Android device for right now. And unfortunately, I don't have a clean iOS device to use on this. So, there will be only one potential difference, and I'll point it out. If you have not used your device for development, but it may not even make a difference. So we're going to build this for build settings. And actually, before we build it, I'm going to open up Xcode explicitly to see if it wants anything from us. So we're going to open up Xcode, which we downloaded on the Apple registration episode. And it has a license agreement. I'm going to agree to it. I swear this is like the 17th time I've agreed to this. And it's installing components. Yay, bars. Hopefully this will not be a lot of bars, but we've been playing the bar game a lot on episodes lately. Yes, those last percentages, those pixels, man, at the end, that just kill you on these bars. It's like 10 pixels away. Oh, there we go. Now it's done. All right. So, welcome to Xcode. That's a good sign. So I'm going to quit Xcode. And I'm going to plug in my phone here. And if it opens up anything, I'll stop it. Okay, it just opened up my high score list. All right, so what are we doing? So we're going to now try to build for this device. So we're going to go to Build Settings, iOS. If you just use Build and Run, it'll automatically switch platform. I like to explicitly switch platform just so that if there is any problem in the asset import pipeline, you'll know that it's separate of the building pipeline. So while that's going, I'm going to see if there's any new comments since we got working here. So, yes, it's working. Woo, live, yay, working. Keyboard is loud though. I'm sorry. Louder than usual. I don't think it's. I think it's coming through my. That's probably a really annoying sound. It didn't make any sound here, but like the microphone moved and vibrated. Dude, you are awesome. I'll be able to do stuff after this. New developer, I guess. I can't pledge, but I hope VV gets founded. And of course, I'm spreading the CW virus. Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate you spreading us like a virus. Spread VV as well. Get someone else to pledge. Get someone else to pledge on your behalf or something. I don't know. Figure something out. Need to remember I can't like pick my nose or anything because I think my face is still on the screen. I probably have already been doing it. So yeah, bars. This is computationally. This takes a while, unfortunately, and unfortunately, this is one of those things that every time you switch projects, it takes a while. So if generally you want to stay on one project and stick with it. iOS in particular takes a long time to convert because they use kind of a special PNG format that for whatever reason the actual compression actually takes significant time on certain things. So all right, it's done. Yay. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to try the same trick. I'm going to do Build and Run. I'm not as optimistic that this will just work right off the bat, but let's give it a shot. We're going to go to Desktop, and we're going to save this as Make a Game Now. Now this, I'm calling it the same thing as the other thing. This is actually going to create a folder here. Unlike before, what we actually got was this APK file, and it automatically pushed it over to the device. In this case, we're going to be building a project file that opens up in Xcode. So here it is. And it's going to try and run on the device, and I think it's going to run into a problem. It ought to run into a problem because we haven't set up Xcode at all with our Apple ID or anything. So it's processing symbol files. I'm just going to let it do its thing for a moment. It has to do this for a new device, usually only once, or a device it doesn't know. Bar games. What's funny is I'm fairly certain after setting up the Windows side of things that they modeled their stuff based on Apple's stuff, which is unfortunate because I really think that Apple's workflow is kind of, I don't know, it's disjointed. I'm going to say it that way. It's not bad. I mean, like, and the thing is, they weren't intending you to be using third-party tools for this stuff. They kind of wanted you to be developing in Xcode, and so they assume that you want to use Xcode. When we're on Unity, we kind of want to avoid it as much as possible. So we're going to hit play on this, and it says enable developer mode on this Mac. Some debugging features require you to enter your password. I'll go ahead and enable it. Put in my local password. No matching code identity found. No code signing identities matching iPhone developer were found. Xcode can resolve this issue by downloading a new provisioning profile from the member center. So if we just click Fix Issue, this should do all of the legwork for us. I'll show you kind of how to do this manually later because we're going to need to when we actually start publishing. So we're going to add a program, and we're going to do main at makeagame.com, and password is password or something. And so we did that, and so that's done. So now if I hit choose, Your development certificate for Maximilian Moreau is not found on the member sitter. Xcode can submit a certificate signing request on your behalf. Would you like Xcode to do so now? Yes, please request. This is so much easier than it was in the beginning when you had to do all this manually. That being said, as I said, we're still going to have to see a lot of the manual stuff when we go to publish. Oh, this is so much nicer than it used to be, though. So it's compiling. That's a good sign. And I've got my device here, so I'm just going to leave it showing up on the window here. We want to use the key, yeah, always allow, even though it was not very well labeled. So it's done building. And so now it should be attempting to run it. So I haven't seen my screen yet. I'll look at it in the window here and see if something shows up. You don't have to unlock your device or anything in this case. It will automatically pull itself open. There we go, Unity, that's a good sign. I think I have it upside down, but that doesn't matter. Come on. There it is. Grid Cruiser. Yay, it's working. Do we have music? Let me turn on my... I had my thing on vibrate just because I don't like getting interrupted in the show. So we start game, and the game starts. And yes, it has the same rendering issue. It's really hard to see on this small screen. But it has the same rendering issue. And we've got touch movement working, and so it is working. It's about the same problems that we're dealing with before. Now on iOS, when you hit run in the Xcode thing, if you disconnect your cable, it will actually disconnect your session and quit the application. But it has actually transferred it. So if you look on there, there's a Make a Game Now. It just shows up in whatever first slot it can find. So I'm going to hit Make a Game Now, and now it'll run without the cord. So the other thing you'll notice is right now we've got some text that cuts off on the sides of the screen. We've got things that we need to fix. We got the fog problem, we got text cutting off on the screen, and right now we can rotate this to a vertical orientation, which I don't want to actually support. So let's change some things around. I keep wanting to hit start on this stop on this window, and it's bad because that would stop our broadcast. So that's how you get set up on Xcode and get it running. Once you have it running and once you have that, it won't ask you all those questions again. You just hit the little run button and it'll run. And any debug log stuff, when it's connected via USB, will show up here. So you'll actually see debug logs and stuff like that. If you're looking for something to, if you're looking for output, console output, that's where you'll find it. And I should show you how to do that on Android as well. So I'm going to reconnect the Android, and we don't even have to rerun it in Unity, so we can actually just play with this right now. So USB debugging gives you some neato stuff on Android, and so when you plug this thing in, if we open up a terminal window, so we go in here and type terminal. If you're on Windows, CMD is the same deal. I think it just works on the command line for Windows. I'm going to set always allow on this computer. I didn't do that last time on the OK thing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to type in ADB and type in logcat. And we don't get anything because I didn't actually add this to our path. So I'm going to change directory into our Android SDK macOS LS. That stands for list stuff. Actually, that's not what it stands for. But if you're on Windows, it would be dir. That's the directory list. So CD platform tools, I think is where it's in. LS ADB, there it is. And so /ADB. If you're on Windows, I think it'll just be ADB. And then it wants more parameters. So ADB logcat. So now, what this is actually doing is it's producing all of the log output from this device. And this includes stuff that's not Unity, which is actually kind of cool. You can literally see everything that's happening that gets drawn to debug log. So, am I still windowing? Yeah, I am. So if we open up our Unity game, we don't actually print much Unity stuff. So I'm not really going to be able to prove this to you, but if we did, you would see debug logs in here. And I think if you set it up so that, here, I'm going to quit this for a moment. So I think if you set this up, so I'm going to hit Control C to break. On Windows, I think that will also work, though I'm not 100% sure. But it's a very Unix command. And I think that both Windows and Mac actually duplicate that functionality. So what we're going to do is we're going to do ADB logcat again, and you can do logcat, and then I forget how you do the search. Hold on, let's see. Unity logcat. Let's see how to use ADB logcat. So, okay, -S. So -S allows you to search for certain things. And so what you can do is like logcache.-s unity. Let's do capital unity. I'm not sure if it searches for both. And we have to do the // sorry. // So now it just shows the things that are Unity related. So, so if you only want to know what's in your game, this will show up with the Unity related printouts. Again, we aren't printing anything ourselves right now, so so we're only getting stuff that that is like okay.
There's some stuff, touchscreen game.
Oh, touch count, yeah,
touch
yeah,
count.
yeah. So we do have some stuff. So this is our stuff. Sweet. So that's how you get command line output on Android. So we have it running on devices. Yay! Now we can use either or. I'm probably going to stick with Android for on-device testing just because it's easier to work with on this show. Don't take that as a value judgment. I love both of the systems. So, and I also hate both of the systems. I have a love-hate relationship with a lot of technology. So I'm going to quit out Xcode. I'm going to switch this back over to Android, as I said, because I just want to leave this plugged in, and quite frankly, I'd rather keep my phone in my pocket. So this is re-importing for Android now that we're switching back. And the first thing I'm going to fix of the problems that we noticed is the easy one. So right now, if we run the game on the device, it supports any orientation. So this orientation looks terrible for us. I mean, we could make it work, but I don't want to. Let's make it so it just works on this one and the reversed one. We don't want any of the portrait view ones. So let's do that. We're going to go into Edit, Project Settings, Player. And if we go into Resolution and Presentation, we want auto rotation. That's useful. You can lock it into just one orientation here, but I recommend using auto rotation and then choosing either portrait or landscape or both. In our case, it is just landscape. So we're going to uncheck portrait and portrait upside down. And I'm going to leave the rest of the settings the same. So let's save scene, save project, build and run. And this should push over to the Android, and we should immediately have a fixed up thing here. Alright, so it says pushing content to device. I really do think that it needs to be unlocked for that to work. I'm going to unlock my device and unlock it. Oh, and it wants to... I'm going to hit accept this time. It wants to scan this stuff for some reason. That may be why it blocked it. There we go. So now, if we hold it like this or like this, it does not rotate. But it should rotate to the two landscape orientations. Yay, it does. So, bug number 1 fix. Bug number 2, our text is being blocked at the edges of the screen. Now, this is actually due to the fact that we want to support as many aspect ratios as we can, and not all. So we've been just kind of testing it in a window. We haven't actually been looking at it as an aspect thing. So this doesn't have. Why doesn't this have all the resolutions. So I'm going to add a resolution here. We're just going to call it 16 by 9. Now we're going to call it an aspect ratio. We're just going to do 16 by 9. Okay. And then 16 by 10 we already have. 3 by 2 we already have. And I don't see an explicit 4 by 3. So I'm going to add an explicit 4 by 3. 4 by 3. 4 by 3. And we're going to do aspect ratio 4 by 3. So I generally believe in supporting between 4:3 and 16 by 9 ratios. That covers most of the devices that you're going to run into on the market. There are some that have wider aspect ratios than that. There are some that have narrower aspect ratios. Or wait, hold on. 3 divided by 2 is wider, right? Yeah, it is. 4 by 3, you actually don't run into too many devices that run 4 by 3 these days, with the exception of computers themselves, and actually most of them have moved to widescreen as well. So you may not want to support it, because one of the problems with it is it means that everything has to kind of stay square, at least in your menus. So it is up to you what you want to support always. But I try to be as inclusive as possible, and generally 16 by 9 as widest and 4 by 3 as narrowest, and making everything work in 4 by 3 but stretch nicely to 16 by 9 is what I usually go for as a goal. So let's go to our tile screen test scene. That's so old school. So now we're on 4 by 3. We can see exactly what's cut off here. So I'm going to go ahead and make the music credits a little bit smaller. I'm just going to change the size by add a 0 here. That's way too small. 5 here. There we go. And then a 0.5 here. So now he should be on the screen. We're going to save scene, save project, build and run. And again, it's building and going to the device. Remember to have it unlocked. You may want to turn it on so that it doesn't automatically lock itself when it's plugged into power. It's one of the developer options. It will affect your screen life if you just leave it running, but if you are doing a lot of debug stuff, it makes a lot of sense to do it. Just make sure that you turn off your device between here. So now you can see that the text fits nicely, and well, we could if it wasn't so dark. So the text fits nicely, and we've got that thing working, so that we got 2 of the 3 problems that we've run into so far fixed. It is nice that the touch stuff just started working, so that's awesome. We didn't have to worry about that stuff. And it appears sound's working. We've got the whoosh sounds, I think, so yep, whoosh.
Sounds kind of like fireballs in Mario.
It does. It
the
very much does. And we died. So, so sweet. And again, this is not running from device, so not hitting. The fact that it wasn't playing here surprised me, even though it shouldn't have. So, finally, we have that fog problem. Now, it looked like, it's hard to tell on the video probably, but it actually looked like some of the fogging was working on the pillars, but it wasn't working on the ground for some reason. So the first thing I'm going to look at is, what is the difference between the pillars and the ground? And we may do some experiments here. So we're going to go to level 1 here, and we're going to look at our ground. And our ground is using diffuse and particles additive. So the fact that one of the layers is using diffuse is kind of scary, considering I'm fairly certain that our pillars are all diffuse. So if we go to pillar, yep, default diffuse. So for some reason, it's working kind of on those, but not working on the ground. Like as we hit play, you've got this like, oh, I forgot we have the moving left and right sounds. I couldn't even hear those on the Android. Not sure if it was because they weren't playing or what. But yeah, on the Android, I can see the pillars flickering, but I don't see the ground flickering. Let me show you one more time on here to see what I'm talking about. Alright, so you can see as they come in that they're kind of flickering, and you can actually see that the cube is flickering a little bit. But for some reason, the ground, it's only when they come in because they're just one color at first. But the ground is not. So yeah. So we've got two ground planes. And I'm going to try disabling the additive one because this is the one that's different. I wouldn't have thought that this would have affected it.
Are there particle shaders for mobile?
There are particle shaders for mobile. Yes, there are. And we could be using them for optimization's sake if we wanted to. So I'm going to get rid of the second ground one. This is the secondary. If we turn it on while it's running, you can see it's the second grid here. So we're going to disable that grid. And I'm going to go ahead and save scene, save project, and build and run. And we're going to see if that makes any difference on the device. I'm just waiting. This is dead air, I guess, at this point. So I'm going to hit start game, and it still looks exactly the same, except for now we don't see the second grid. It's really weird that it's still affecting the pillars, but it's not affecting the ground. Alright, so time for a Google search. So this is the kind of thing you run into developing all the time, and I'm actually really happy we ran into a problem that is platform specific, because you deal with this. This is the type of thing that you end up having to deal with. So what we're going to search for is
Unity Android Fog.
Unity Android Fog. Yeah, thank you. Upgrade to Unity 4 removes fog on Android 2.3. Fog doesn't work.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Here's the confirmed fog bugs. Hopefully will get sorted. Observe the same under Android 4.0.3 and 4.2.2 with EXP2 fog and Android minimum API level set to 2.31 even with 17.2. No kind of fog works on any Android version with Unity 4.2.0 F4. Seems like there's no outrage. There's no one using fog anymore. Am I using outdated techniques? Most folks are using fog on mobile platforms. All right. So we can probably get around with it with our own shader that supports fog. I am actually going to just give it a shot. This isn't going to properly work with our music thing just yet, but I'm going to see if the exponent fog is not working, but the linear fog actually does work. So we're going to go to Project, Render Settings. We're going to change this to linear, and I'm just going to leave it like that. It's going to look not so great, and it's not going to actually move the music. But I just want to see if this actually renders on the device. So if we save scene, save project, build and run, because they were making sounds like in those forums that maybe only some types of fog were broken. It is unfortunate that it seems to be something that was working and is no longer working, which also may mean that we might be able to just go back and get an earlier version of the shaders to support it, but it also might mean that might not be the case either. Pushing the device, so we're going to launch here, and no fog. No fog at all. Alright, so that option is kaput. So, the other option we have is to potentially make our own shader for fog. I'm going to search for Unity Fog Shader. Mobile shader. Fog plus Unity mobile shaders. Alright. I'm going to click this link and see what we get. Fog. That doesn't really help us. To use fragment programs, fog settings of the shader will still be applied. On platforms where there is no fixed function fog functionality, fixed function fog functionality, fixed function fog functionality, fixed function fog functionality. That's a good one. I like that. Unity will patch shaders at runtime to support the requested fog mode. I don't think they're doing it right anymore. Or if they're doing it, it's not working. Custom fog shader. This is just how to... Oh, wait, okay. Oh, this is actually code for fog stuff. We have to tell the system about vertex and fog color function. So this one uses... Yeah, so this one will actually work for us. Let's give it a shot. Maybe it'll work for us. I'm not guaranteeing it will work, but let's give this a shot. Custom fog. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to look, so I'm just going to try it. We're going to put it on our ground texture. So we're going to create in... do we have a shaders folder yet? I don't think we do. We do, actually, because we had our weird particle add filter that we're not actually using. So we're going to create a new shader, and we're going to call this fog test for right now. And I'm going to double click it, and it should open up Mono Develop for us. And we're going to go to fog tests, and I'm just going to take all of this and paste in what we got online. So we got shader custom fog. I'm going to hit save. Hopefully it will actually kind of work. And we're going to put this on our ground. So on our ground, we're going to switch it to custom fog. So, wow, that didn't do what I thought it was going to do. Unity fog color. So does it actually pull this somehow out of... Where is it actually getting these from? I want it to actually be this. Accessing fog parameters in CG shader. Okay, so it looks like this actually... There are no built-in shader variables that get the fog color like the ambient color. It is there. Okay, so these actually correspond to, theoretically, they correspond to the fog settings and render settings here. So let's see what happens if we change some things. Oh, it did change something. We got past. This doesn't look so good right now. So I'm gonna undo all the things I just did and redo that last one. So what is this thing actually doing? Fog color RGB, and fog factor, main text, and UV text, albedo, alpha. All right. So for some reason, project settings, fog, render settings. So if we change the fog color, does it? Okay, so it is changing that. That's good. That's a good sign. If we go to our ground, we've got it on our texture, so that's good. It's repeating the same number of times as it was before, so that's good. It just doesn't look like it's working the way we want it to, which is unfortunate.
Is this shader specifically for linear fog?
It looked like it. Certainly looks like it does something when the linear fog start and end are reversed. Like if it goes past the end. So like if I switch this down to, yeah, if I switch this down at that switchover point, we see that it at least starts rendering the way that it was before. I'm actually going to go ahead and here. If we change this, does it fix anything? No. just changes the way the cube renders. Alright. So I'm going to just break it real quick. I just want to see if the rest of it still works, like the color changing and stuff. Okay, the color changing doesn't work on the shader because we don't actually have a color variable in this shader. So we're going to have to do some work on this thing regardless. But the fact that it does not even do part of the problem, we know that it actually is affected by the render settings, but other than just
Hit play now and see.
So
the color should at least change.
Yeah, it changes with the fog color.
You want to try building and see if it at least
Runs on the device?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. Save scene, save project, and build and run. So, I'm going to get my device back up here. It is nice that it's able to use the fog settings from Unity itself. So I'm going to start the game, and yeah, it does render like it's rendering on here, where we see a lot of just full color ground. So it's doing something that works on mobile, so that's a good sign. One less thing.
That pillar at the end, it looked like it was gray instead of the...
Yeah, no, as I said, it kind of works on the pillars for some reason, which is weird considering we're using the same shader on the ground. So I think it might have something to do with, like,
we're seeing
an object
the pillars,
space calculation.
Yeah, we're seeing the pillars closer to the screen than we're seeing the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think there's just some math that we have to look at in the shader.
So Unity Fog Color RGB in Fog Factor. What's the Fog Factor? Fog Factor is saturate Unity Fog End X minus camera vert distance divided by Unity Fog End X minus Unity Fog Start X. Saturate. I don't know what that does. Let's find out. So Unity saturate shader. What does saturate mean? CG standard library functions. These must be one of these. So let's go with saturate. Returns the smallest integer not less than a scalar or each vector component. In English, that means returns the smallest whole number value that is not less than a scalar or each vector component. So, so if you have three components in something like X, Y, Z, or RGB, it will return the smallest integer that is smaller than any of those components, from what it sounds like, for a vector component, or just a scalar if you give it a scalar. We're going to be looking at the vector version, it looks like here. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. So we're looking at Unity Fog in X minus camera vert dist.
Is there
This is a built-in.
distance or something?
All right, so this is not a built-in. So camera vert distance is length multiply the vertex. Oh, okay. So, wait, no, it's using it on the vertexes, so that's good. It's not on the object level. Sorry, we're gonna just be poring over this for a little bit here. I'm not even sure if I'm gonna solve it on this episode. I just am curious if we can figure something out. So this gives us, so length, I think this is basically getting a magnitude of a vector, and the vector is our vertex multiplied into camera space. So this is actually transforming it into Unity Matrix NV. Let's find out what that actually is. Unity Matrix NV.
Model view matrix.
Yeah, that's right. Model view matrix. So model view matrix. Is that even appropriate for this? So we're getting into some fancy stuff here. Basically, there's behind the scenes, all of this is matrix math that makes the magic happen. And you basically have like model space, which is all the vertices around some origin, right? And so those you import like a model, like a cube or something, and it has this model space and stuff. And so that space has to be translated into world space for each of these coordinates. I think matrix MV brings it into world space coordinates if we multiply it in, which is what should be happening here. And so we get a vertex which gives you the actual position from the camera. Is that correct? In the case of model view. And we do a saturate.
Wait, what is app data full V?
App data full V is, I don't know. It's an app data full. Passing parameters CG shader through app data full. So it's just a way to get vertex and flagging shader. Okay, so yeah, it's just for getting data between. Input data. All right. So this is lerping between here and here based on the fog factor, and the fog factor is taking Unity fog end x minus camera vert distance divided by Unity fog end x minus Unity fog start x. So let's try something dumb. Let's just, so data.fog factor, what is fog factor? It's half, which is a half one, so it's a single value. It's just a scalar. Let's just play. Let's just play. We're just going to put in camera vert dist here, and that's all we're going to feed it. Which this isn't normalized 0 to 1, so it's probably not going to work very well. But I'm just curious what'll happen. Okay, well everything's black now, so that's exciting. Something changed. Let's go to project settings, player, render settings, and I'm just going to set this to 0, and we're going to try setting this really low, really high. All right, it's not working so well. All right, so that doesn't work so well. I just had a theory, though. I'm curious about something. So I'm going to just leave this back to what it was, because someone at some point thought that this was working, right? Like, yep. Every time I run into something on the internet, I always remember that. I'm like, at some point, someone thought this was working. So, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that it was working, and that there's something weird about our project that made it so it doesn't work as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our ground, and I'm going to scale it down. Let's make it a lot smaller. Let's make it 1 by 1. Oh, and it already changed. Did you see that? It already was different. I'm just going to make it 5 wide. And I'm going to make the tiling way less. I'm just going to make it, in the X, we're just going to make it 5. So here we go. And we're going to go now into render settings. And I'm going to change the fogging And it does look like it's changing. It still doesn't look like a real linear fog thing. And so let's make it smaller on the length as well. Let's go round. We're going to make this like 5, and we're going to have to move our camera at the very minimum to where it's at. So where did that end up? Around. It's 495, so I'll just move this up to. So I'll go to our camera and move it to 490, 480, 485, 495. So 490 was pretty good. And now let's see if that linear fog actually seems like it's acting more like linear fog. So if we go to render settings and we change our fog values, it does appear to be fogging. So our problem is the way that this is working is based on vertex distance, and our vertices are way, way far away from where we're acting on. I'm also interested to see if this actually is something that might fix the other fogging problem, because remember, as I said, the fogging looked like it was working on the pillars. I think this has something to do with it. So if we switch this just back to a standard shader of some kind, let's do just diffuse, and I'm going to go back into render settings, and we're going to actually switch it back to exponential exp2. We're going to make it saturated enough that we should see it. All right, cool. And I'm going to save scene, save project, build and run. I'm curious if this will actually show up on the device now that our vertices are much less wide. I think this actually has something to do with the way the vertices are set up and laid out on the object itself. It's still something we can work around. I just wanted to know what the nature of the problem is. So if we start game, yes, and actually you can see it flickering with the music. So it yeah, so that's the problem. So the problem is our vertices are so far away that the way that they're calculating fog on these shaders is messing up on mobile. Now, it's still odd to me that it messes up on mobile, but doesn't mess up on desktop, at least for the built-in fog. We'll have to play around with that. What was that?
Maybe mobile is falling back
to another shader? It's possible, yeah. All right, so I'm going to make this, we're going to undo all the stuff that we just did, or try to. We're not going to succeed. We're going to go into project settings. I probably should have saved this before we were doing things. Render settings. Put this back up to, I think, 4, was it? Or was it 2? Or was it 1? I don't remember what we defaulted this.
I know we had it at 0.4 for a while.
All right, and let's go ground, make this back to, what is this one called? It's like 1,000 by 1,000. Yeah, 1,000 by 1,000. We move the camera back to where it was, so that's what, 0 minus 5. There we go. Ground, I'm going to give it, so it's got the diffuse. I want this to be 100. I think that whatever we just set the fog settings to is way too high. Why is it? Okay, so yeah, let's do 0.1. I don't know if that's what we had set. I'm just going to save scene, save project.
You want to turn the
and
other
we'll just
ground layer on?
Go in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open the source tree. Yeah, let's turn the other ground layer back on. Ground on. Save scene, save project. And what we're going to do is I'm going to grab all of these that we changed with the exception of project settings.asset. This is the one that has our fog settings and stuff. And actually, we can probably find out what they are. So we actually do want this. And actually, so this is something cool you can do with Git, and source tree makes it really easy. You can actually stage individual portions of what you changed. So we want this one. We want this one. Okay. So this isn't actually where the fog settings are at all. So we actually want all of that. I'm just going to stage it all. I'm going to quit Unity and see if it writes out the other file. It didn't. Huh. Did we not change the fog settings? That seems odd. Render settings, fog density. I'm going to set it to like 1.0 and save project and see if anything changed. Oh, it's in the level settings? Why is it? Oh, weird. Okay, so actually let's not do that. Let me just save project, save scene again, quit. Alright, so that's actually in this thing. So we can find out what our original fog density was. It was 0.03, it looks like, was our original fog density, or 0.04 is what it was. So, maybe make a game now.
We were off by 0.
Yeah, we were off by 0. That's funny. So we're going to do render settings, 0.04. That looks like what we were doing before, yay. And I'm just going to save that, save scene, save project, hit play. Alright, cool, it's doing stuff. Let's go ahead and stage that, and we're going to commit. Fog tests and shader for fixing mobile fog problem. Vertex distance is a problem on mobile for our huge quads. Push commits immediately to origin. Commit.
So let's try switching out the quads with the plane. And
we'll do that later. We're going to wrap up this episode. I'm going to call this a wrap for the mobile testing because we did mobile testing and everything. And we did it on iOS and Android. If you have any questions, please email me, pushypixels@pushypixels.com. You can also tweet me at Drakfire. You should send Phil a get well message at magmalemur, MAGMALEMUR, and yeah, so and support the Kickstarter, and we'll catch you in 30 minutes, hopefully, if YouTube doesn't mess up again, and or my router mess up, whatever was messing up there, and we'll see you then.